Hello and welcome to another quick video from me, the History Tutor, and this time we're looking at AQA topic, Britain, Helping the People, and we're going to look at the Renaissance surgery, and we're going to tackle that rather tricky question of significance. So in this video, I'm going to talk about Renaissance surgery, and we're going to deal with the significance question, as I said already. So we're going to look at how to tackle that question. What is significance? How to plan an answer? How to write an answer? I'm also going to revise our knowledge of Renaissance surgery. So take a look through my revision guide, revise your surgery of the Renaissance time, and then come back for a quick quiz. Here's our short revision quiz, and it's all based around Pare, because we're going to think about the significance of Pare in our lesson today. So look at those three questions, look at the revision guide pages and see if you can work out some of the answers. And they're already starting to help you think about significance as well. So pause you now and think of some ideas. Then yours might be slightly different, that's fine, but here's my ideas. So name one long-term invention that Pare developed to stop bleeding in surgery. So crow's beak. So Pare invented the crow's beak, and we still use a tool like that today in surgery. So that means it's very significant. So obviously the crow's beak would clamp the artery closed to stop the blood squirting out whilst trying to seal up a wound. And this meant people didn't need to amputate the wound closed in a hurried operation to stop bleeding. They can clamp the bleeding shut and then sew up the wound in a more careful manner. Number two, give one discovery of Pare's that improved surgery for a large amount of people. So the use of herbal oil to help wounds heal, or ligatures, one of those two would be really good ideas. So they improve surgery by having a less painful way of the wound being healed compared to the hot oil, which is the herbal oil's idea, and obviously the ligature is a much better way of sealing up a wound compared to the cautery iron. And then finally, give another invention of Pare's that still influences surgery today. And that's, we could have obviously the crow's beak, but also I've gone for artificial limbs for those that have been amputated. Now let's think about the questions. So we're looking at question 2, and it's explain why Pare's significance the development of surgery in Britain. So question 2 will always be a significance question and explaining significance. So we can really do with learning what is significant and how to answer this question. So have a think of yourself about the wording, and what do you think you do for a significance question? So list some ideas and skills. If you're not sure, then I'll talk you through it in a moment. Here's what I've gone for then. You need to do 2 PL paragraphs for 8 marks. You need to explain 2 ways that Pare is significant. You need to make a point based on significance. And significance is based around a list criteria, which we'll talk about in the next bit of the video. So if you're not sure what the list criteria is, you've not seen any of my other videos, then obviously find out in a moment. Give examples to back up the way in which that person is showing that significance. So you're probably going to be thinking about, in this question, Pare, giving an example of this. And then we're going to explain the significance. Now, significance is often an over time or wider impact on people type idea. So you might not actually be explaining anything about Pare when you explain. You might be explaining his long-term impact, how it influenced other people, other places, wider time periods. For 7 or 8 marks, you need to then explain some wider significance. So maybe you've gone for a long-term idea, and then you could talk about a long-term idea in a bit more detail about how it influenced somebody else to do something. So you're starting to get a little bit of a hint about what significance is. So you're still not quite sure. Let's talk about this list criteria. Each of these letters refers to an idea. So already you might have got an idea of long term is something that's important. So L is for long term. What do you think some of the other letters might mean for a criteria of what is significant? Pause now and have a think. Okay, so here is the ideas then. So long term is the first idea. Then it's important people and places. Then it's size and scale. So lots and lots of people and places involved. Then it's today. We might still talk about it today. Or really, really, really big short-term impact. So a really good example of that in history is the assassination of Archduke Franz Ferdinand that led to the First World War. So not only was he a significant person from a significant place, it led to a huge short-term impact. So it can't be a small impact, it could be quite a big impact in the short term. Okay, so pause me now and have a think about Pare. Can you think of ideas for each of those? So look through your notes, see if you can work out some ideas. Okay, so here's what I've gone for. So firstly, in the long term, his herbal remedy used to heal wounds rather than painful cauterization. So in the long term, that took over. Cauterization died out and more herbal remedies and better ways of treating wounds took over. He became very significant in terms of he was the surgeon to the King of France, obviously gained some fame. Size and scale, all major surgery used ligatures to close wounds around the world. You could also talk about how his book works on surgeries published in many countries, but I've used that idea later on. Today, we still use the crow's beak and ligature to close up wounds, control bleeding, particularly after amputation or a major wound. And short term, his book works in surgery spread to many countries, including Britain. William Close used many of Pare's ideas in his book. So we have some really good short term, long term, size and scale sort of ideas that we can talk about. So now, how do we write this? So as I said, we need to really focus on significance. So we need to sort of talk about long term today, lots and lots of people as our reason why. So we might say one way that Pare was significant was because he had a big long term impact on surgery for this reason. Yeah. So we need to give an argument about significance. So then we might say something about what Pare did. So for example, Pare did this. Then we explain the significance. This is significant because in the long term, this led to this, this, and this. So we need to remember this topic you're doing, this Britain Health and People topic, is a study over time. And this type of question really tests your thinking over time. We could do finally a link to a furthermore and a wider idea around that theme, particularly if we're doing long term, maybe another long term idea. Okay, so let's go through a paragraph together. So first you make your point. So one way that Pare is significant was because. Now, maybe we could have a look at some long-term or ideas important today to set this idea up, because it's probably the most simplistic idea we had in our plan. I'm going to go today just for your information. So what do you think you'd say as an opening point about linking to today? Okay, so I've gone for this. So one way that Pare was significant was because he invented surgical ideas that are still important today. Very simple. So for example, he did this. So pause me now and give an example you think links to today. Okay, so what I've gone for is, for example, he developed the crow's beak and ligature to stop bleeding. Now explain this. Okay, this means Pare is significant because. So can we link to the long-term and today impact of this? So try and explain in a few sentences what you'd say about that. So pause me now and give it a go. Okay, so what I've said is this means Pare is significant because this crow's beak stopped bleeding during amputations by clamping the artery closed, and ligatures was used to sew the wound closed. This idea is still used today as to replace the painful and unsafe process of cauterization. Okay, really simple bit of knowledge just to explain the long-term impact, why it's still used today. So can we do a furthermore about today, okay, or long-term to back that up? So have a think back to the plan. What would you put? Okay, so here's what I've got. So furthermore, Pare still influenced surgery today, as his book Works on Surgery was created many artificial limbs that inspired artificial limbs that we use today for amputees. So another idea about today, Pare didn't like the fact that people amputated and their quality of life was impacted, so he started to invent really great ideas like artificial limbs. Okay, so think about another idea. Guess this time you can write this yourself. So jot down your thoughts. Maybe you can do a long-term idea. We still haven't talked about ligatures or the herbal oil, so we could explain some ideas around that. So pause me now and give your idea by yourself. Okay, so here's my idea. So another way that Pare was significant was because he started a trend to challenge old ideas that would influence surgery in the long term. For example, he did not like using the cautery iron or burning hot oil, instead used his herbal oil and ligatures. This was significant because he learnt that a herbal oil made of egg yolks, oil of roses and turpentine could help a wound to heal better than burning hot oil. He promoted this in his book Works on Surgery, and some surgeons like John Hunter were inspired to experiment and develop new ideas. So I've linked to a surgeon later in time who also challenged ideas there. So John Hunter developed a bypass operation to help patients rather than simply cut off flesh. Furthermore, he was significant, talking about Pare here, because he promoted the idea of using ligatures rather than painful cauterization. This shows he was significant as he moved people away from painful old ideas to more humane ideas. we found it useful and you've managed to develop your significance question skills, and also you've managed to revise your knowledge on Pare, of course, as well. So if you found that video useful, I've got lots more videos in my revision guide. So if you haven't got one, have a look at the YouTube link here and the information for a link to the Amazon pages where I sell these revision guides. Okay, well, I hope to see you again soon for another video. Bye-bye for now.